The Great Hall of the Hegemony Council stretched across 3 kilometers of polished metal and crystal. 12 species sat around the massive circular table, each representing billions of lives across their conquered territories. The air hummed with translation devices, turning clicks, growls, and harmonic tones into understandable speech for all present. Admiral Zex Thera adjusted his 4 arms on the table surface. His blue-scaled face remained calm as he watched the holographic display rotate slowly above them. Today's meeting focused on expansion targets, and the list was shorter than usual. Most of the galaxy had already fallen under hegemony control. System 7834 Alpha shows promise, announced Counselor Vexhai, her insect-like features clicking as she spoke. 3 inhabited worlds. Pre-industrial civilizations. Minimal resistance expected. The others murmured agreement. These meetings had become routine over the centuries. Find a system with resources. Check for advanced weapons. If the locals couldn't fight back, add them to the Empire. It was simple and effective. Next target, called out Counselor Rexton from across the table. His reptilian head turned toward the display as new information appeared. System SOL. Single. Inhabited planet. Designation: Earth. Zex Thera leaned forward with interest. His people had been spacefaring for over 2,000 years, but he still enjoyed learning about new worlds. What do we know about this Earth? The display zoomed in, showing a blue and green planet orbiting a yellow star. Population approximately 8 billion. Carbon-based life forms. They call themselves humans. Vexhai read from her datapad. Technology level appears primitive. No faster than light travel detected. No energy weapons. No planetary shields. Perfect, Rexton said with satisfaction. When do we move? But Counselor Thexara, the eldest among them, raised a tentacle for attention. Wait, let me check something. Her species had the best sensors in the galaxy, a skill that made them valuable to the hegemony. She closed her large eyes and connected directly to the scanning array. Minutes passed in silence. When Thexara opened her eyes again, confusion crossed her ancient features. That's strange. I'm detecting quantum encryption signatures around their planet. What kind of signatures? Zex Thera asked. Very advanced ones, far beyond what a pre-FTL species should have. Thexara's tentacles moved nervously. Their communication networks are protected by encryption that would challenge even our best code breakers. Rexton laughed. A sound like grinding stone. Equipment malfunction. It happens all the time with long-range scans. These humans probably just discovered radio. Perhaps, Thexara said, but doubt colored her voice. Still, I recommend caution. Vexhai clicked her mandibles dismissively. We've conquered 300 worlds. 1 primitive planet won't be a problem. Their strongest weapons appear to be chemical explosives. Our shields can handle that easily. The vote was quick and unanimous. Earth would be added to the target list. Admiral Zex Thera received his orders. Take a reconnaissance fleet to the SOL system, assess the human military capabilities, and prepare for full invasion within 1 standard galactic month. As the council members filed out of the hall, Thexara approached Zex Thera. Admiral, I meant what I said about caution. Something feels wrong about this world. Zex Thera respected the old counselor's instincts, but orders were orders. I'll be careful, but the decision is made. Honestly, what could 1 primitive world do against the might of the hegemony? 3 days later, Zex Thera stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominator, as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the SOL system. Around him, 15 other warships materialized from hyperspace. Each vessel carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Begin long-range scans, he ordered. I want to know everything about this planet before we get closer. His sensor officer, a young member of Thexara's species, worked at her station with practiced efficiency. Sir, I'm confirming the earlier readings. This planet definitely has advanced quantum encryption, protecting their networks. Show me, Zexthera commanded. The main screen lit up with data streams. Earth appeared as a glowing sphere surrounded by thousands of artificial satellites. Radio signals and digital transmissions created a complex web around the planet. Look at this traffic volume, the sensor officer said with amazement. They're sending more data per second than some of our core worlds. And all of it is encrypted, with algorithms I can't break. Zexthera studied the readings. Either these humans were far more advanced than they appeared, or something else was protecting their world. What about military installations? Minus. That's the strange part, sir. I'm detecting what appear to be defense satellites, but they're using technology I don't recognize. Power signatures are unlike anything in our databases. Could they be weapons? Unknown. They're not giving off the usual energy patterns we'd expect from weapons arrays. But they're definitely artificial, and definitely advanced. Zexthera made a decision. Hold position at maximum scanning range. I want a full analysis before we proceed. Send a coded message to the Council about our findings. As his crew worked, Zexthera watched Earth through the viewport. The blue planet looked peaceful from this distance, almost innocent. But Zexthera's warning echoed in his mind. His species had survived as long as they had by trusting their instincts about danger. Something about this world felt different from all the others. The hegemony had built their empire by conquering the weak and unprepared. But what if Earth wasn't as helpless as it seemed? Hours passed as more data came in. The humans appeared to be going about their normal lives, unaware that 16 warships watched from the darkness. Their cities glowed with artificial light. Their aircraft moved in organized patterns. Everything looked exactly like a pre-FTL civilization should look, except for those quantum signatures, and those mysterious satellites, and the growing feeling in Zexthera's gut that they were walking into a trap. Sir, his communications officer called out. Message from the Council. They confirm our orders. Proceed with reconnaissance and prepare for invasion. Zexthera nodded slowly. Orders were orders, even when instinct screamed danger. Very well. Take us closer to the planet, but keep shields at maximum and weapons ready. As the hegemony fleet moved deeper into the SOL system, none of them noticed the small probe that had been watching them since they arrived. And none of them suspected that their presence had already been reported to very interested parties on Earth below. Dr. Sarah Kim had been staring at the same radio signal for 3 hours. The pattern made no sense according to any known source, but her equipment clearly showed it was real. As the lead researcher at the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence Institute, she had seen thousands of false alarms. This felt different. The signal had appeared exactly 73 hours ago, coming from the outer edge of the solar system. It was structured, definitely artificial, and completely unlike anything in their databases. Even stranger, it seemed to be scanning Earth's communication networks. Sarah, you need to see this, called Dr. James Chen from across the laboratory. His voice carried an urgency that made her look up from her screens. I've been analyzing the signal structure with the new quantum computers. You're not going to believe what I found. Renan. She walked over to his workstation, where multiple screens showed complex mathematical patterns. What am I looking at? Translation algorithms, James said, his hands shaking slightly as he pointed to the data. This signal isn't random. It's trying to decode our languages. All of them. English, Chinese, Arabic, Spanish. Everything we broadcast into space. Sarah felt her stomach drop. That means. It means someone is out there, and they're trying to understand us. James pulled up another screen. But that's not the scary part. Look at this. The new display showed signal analysis from radio telescopes around the world. Similar patterns were appearing from multiple points in space, all focused on Earth. How many sources? 16 distinct transmission points, arranged in what looks like a military formation. Sarah. Before she could respond, her secure phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she recognized from government briefings. She answered, immediately. Dr. Kim, this is Director Walsh from the National Security Agency. I need you and your team to report to the Pentagon immediately. Bring all data on the unidentified signals. Sir, how did you know about... Dr. Kim, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level. We've known about extraterrestrial contact for 40 years. And right now, we need your help because humanity is in more danger than we've ever been. 2 hours later, Sarah sat in an underground conference room deep beneath the Pentagon. Around the table were officials from every major government, military leaders, and scientists she recognized from television. At the head of the table sat a woman she had never seen before, but who commanded obvious respect. Ladies and gentlemen, the woman began. I am Dr. Elena Vasquez, Director of the Terrestrial Defense Initiative. What you're about to learn has been hidden from the public for decades, but recent events force us to reveal the truth. A holographic display activated above the table, showing Earth from space. 43 years ago, we were contacted by an alien species calling themselves the Guardians. They warned us that a large military empire called the Hegemony was expanding across the galaxy, conquering and enslaving primitive worlds. Sarah leaned forward in her chair. You're saying aliens have been in contact with Earth this whole time? Not just in contact, Dr. Kim. They've been helping us prepare. Dr. Vasquez gestured to the display, which now showed various technological innovations. Many of the advances we've made in the past 4 decades weren't purely human achievements. GPS satellites, quantum computing, advanced encryption, even the internet itself. All based on Guardian technology. WT. James raised his hand. Why help us? What do they want? In return. That's the remarkable part, Dr. Vasquez replied. They want nothing. The Guardians are an ancient species that survived the last great galactic war thousands of years ago. They went into hiding rather than continue fighting. But they couldn't stand by and watch the Hegemony destroy innocent civilizations. The display changed to show alien ship designs. The Guardians have been secretly helping developing worlds prepare for Hegemony attacks. Most fail anyway. The Hegemony is too strong, but they believe humanity might be different. Different how? Sarah asked. Dr. Vasquez smiled grimly. According to the Guardians, most species they've tried to help focus only on building bigger weapons or stronger shields. Humans did something unexpected. We took their defensive technologies and integrated them into civilian infrastructure. Our communication networks, our transportation systems, our financial networks, everything is connected and protected by Guardian encryption. So the quantum signatures we detected, Sarah began, are Guardian protection protocols activating automatically as the Hegemony ships get closer. Dr. Kim, your radio telescopes have been detecting the early stages of an invasion fleet. 16 ships, heavily armed, currently conducting reconnaissance before the main attack. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Sarah found her voice first. How long do we have? Based on Hegemony patterns from other conquered worlds, approximately 3 weeks before they attack in force. But the Guardian ship, hidden on the far side of the moon, tells us something has changed. There's a Guardian ship here? James asked in amazement. One ship. Very old, with a crew of 3. They've been watching and waiting for exactly this moment. Dr. Vasquez's expression grew serious. The Guardians have given us one chance to send a message that could change everything, but it requires risking the entire planet. What kind of message? Sarah asked. Dr. Vasquez touched a control, and the display showed a complex data package. For thousands of years, The Guardians have been collecting evidence of hegemony war crimes, locations of prison worlds, records of genocide, proof of their illegal expansion. They've been waiting for the right moment to reveal this information to the galaxy. And that moment is now? The moment is when the hegemony attacks Earth. If we can broadcast this information at exactly the right time, using every communication system on the planet simultaneously, it will reach every corner of the galaxy. The oppressed worlds will learn the truth about their conquerors. The neutral species will see the hegemony for what they really are. Sarah understood the implications immediately. But if we broadcast early, the hegemony will destroy us before the message can spread. If we wait too long, they'll destroy us anyway, Dr. Vasquez finished. We have one shot. The Guardians have spent millennia preparing for this moment, and they believe humanity is the species that can pull it off. Not because we're the strongest or smartest, but because we're stubborn enough to sacrifice everything for what's right. The room buzzed with quiet conversations as the attendees absorbed the information. Sarah looked around at the faces of world leaders, scientists, and military commanders. Fear was evident in their expressions. But also, something else. Determination. What do you need from us? Sarah asked finally. We need every radio telescope, every satellite, every communication system on Earth to work together for the first time in human history. We need to turn our planet into a single, massive transmitter. And we need to time it perfectly. Dr. Vasquez stood up, her expression grave but resolute. The Guardians chose to trust humanity with this responsibility. The question is, are we brave enough to accept it? As Sarah looked around the room, she saw nods of agreement from every person present. They were about to attempt something that had never been tried in galactic history, using the tools of peace to defeat the weapons of war. Admiral Zex Thara watched the blue planet grow larger on his main screen as the hegemony fleet approached Earth. His reconnaissance had revealed exactly what the Council expected. A primitive world with primitive defenses. The strange quantum signatures appeared to be nothing more than advanced communication, encryption, probably developed by their brightest scientists. Sir, we're receiving the final invasion orders from the Council, reported his communications officer. Full assault begins in 6 hours. Understood. Signal the fleet to take attack positions. Zex Thara felt satisfied with the intelligence they had gathered. Earth's military consisted of small aircraft, surface ships, and crude missiles. Their space capabilities were limited to a few primitive stations and satellites. The conquest would be over within days. On the surface of Earth, Sarah Kim stood in the main control room of the Global Communication Initiative. Screens surrounded her on all sides, showing the status of communication networks from every nation on the planet. Satellite uplinks, radio telescopes, cell towers, internet backbones. Every system that could transmit a signal was now under unified control. Dr. Kim, Guardian ship reports the hegemony fleet is moving into attack formation, announced Director Walsh. They estimate 6 hours until the assault begins. Sarah nodded, trying to keep her hands steady as she reviewed the final preparations. The message was ready. 43 years of Guardian evidence against the hegemony, compressed into a data package that would be impossible to ignore or stop once it began broadcasting. Status report from all stations, she called out. Beijing online and ready, came the first response. Moscow, confirming all systems operational. London standing by. Tokyo ready for transmission. One by one, every major communication hub on Earth reported ready status. Sarah looked at the central display, showing a real-time map of the planet. Thousands of transmission points glowed green, from massive radio telescopes to small emergency broadcast systems. Humanity had never been more connected or more united. Guardian ship is requesting final confirmation, Director Walsh said quietly. Once we start the broadcast, there's no stopping it. The hegemony will detect the signal and attack immediately. Sarah took a deep breath. In 6 hours, Alien warships would begin destroying human cities. But in the next few minutes, humanity would send a message that could free an entire galaxy. Tell the Guardians we're ready. Initiate the broadcast on my mark. High above Earth's atmosphere, the ancient Guardian vessel emerged from its hiding place behind the moon. The ship was small compared to the hegemony warships, but it carried something far more valuable than weapons: hope. Captain Thel Nara, the Guardian mission commander, opened a channel to Earth. Dr. Kim, we are honored to witness this moment. Your species has exceeded our greatest expectations. Beginning authentication sequence now. On every screen in the control room, the same symbol appeared. An intricate pattern of intersecting circles that served as the Guardian seal. The symbol that every species in the galaxy recognized as authentic and unforgeable. Authentication confirmed, Sarah announced. All stations, prepare for synchronized transmission. We are go for Operation Unity. Admiral Zex Thara was reviewing final attack plans when alarms began sounding throughout his ship. Sir, massive energy spike from the planet's surface, his sensor officer called out in panic. Every artificial satellite and communication system is activating simultaneously. What kind of activation? Unknown, sir. Power levels are off the scale. They're broadcasting something on every frequency we can detect. Zex Thara moved to the sensor station and saw readings that made his blood run cold. The entire planet was lighting up like a star on his instruments. Are they attacking us? No, sir. It appears to be a communication signal, but the power behind it. The sensor officer's voice trailed off in amazement. Sir, this signal is strong enough to reach the other side of the galaxy. Before Zex Thara could respond, his communications officer spoke up with fear in her voice. Admiral, I'm detecting Guardian authentication codes in the transmission. The bridge fell silent. Every member of the crew knew about the Guardians, the legendary peacekeepers who had vanished from galactic civilization thousands of years ago. They were myths, stories told to young soldiers about a time when the galaxy was ruled by wisdom instead of force. That's impossible, Zex Thara said finally. The Guardians are extinct. Sir, the authentication is genuine. I've verified it against our oldest databases. This is definitely Guardian encryption. On Earth, Sarah watched as the global transmission reached full power. Every screen in the control room displayed the same message being sent to the stars. To all free peoples of the galaxy, the truth can no longer be hidden. Des, the Dute, 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 the Dute. What followed was a complete record of hegemony crimes spanning 2,000 years, the locations of secret prison worlds where entire species were held in slavery. Documentation of genocides that the hegemony had blamed on natural disasters or civil wars. Evidence of corruption, murder, and conquest that painted the so-called peacekeepers as the galaxy's greatest villains. But the most shocking revelation came at the end of the message. The Guardians were not extinct. They had been watching, waiting, and preparing. Earth was under their protection, and humanity had been chosen to deliver this message to the galaxy. Status report on signal propagation, Sarah called out. Message has reached the nearest star systems and is continuing to spread, came the reply. Quantum entanglement relays are amplifying the signal automatically. Conservative estimate shows galactic coverage within 12 hours. Number. Quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement. Relays are frucket. Quantum entanglement. Relays are fiverite. On the hegemony flagship, chaos erupted as the implications became clear. Admiral Zex Thara watched his crew panic as reports flooded in from across the fleet. The humans hadn't just discovered they were being invaded. They had exposed the hegemony's darkest secrets to the entire galaxy. Sir, incoming priority message from Hegemony Command. His communications officer announced with a shaking voice. They're ordering immediate retreat. Rand. Retreat? From a primitive world? Sir, the message from Earth has already reached 17 core worlds. Riots have started on 6 of them. The Council is calling emergency sessions across the Empire. Zexthara stared at the blue planet that had just changed everything. How had a species that couldn't even travel between stars managed to threaten the greatest empire in galactic history? His sensor officer provided the answer. Admiral, I'm detecting Guardian technology integrated into their defensive systems. This entire world is protected by Guardian shields and weapons. They've been preparing for us. As if to prove the point, Earth's mysterious satellites suddenly powered up with energy signatures that dwarfed anything in the hegemony arsenal. The message was clear. Earth was not defenseless, and the Guardians had returned. Signal the fleet, Zexthara ordered with defeat in his voice. Emergency retreat to hyperspace. This invasion is over before it began. As the hegemony ships fled the solar system, Sarah Kim allowed herself to smile for the first time in weeks. The message was spreading across the galaxy like wildfire, and already they were receiving responses from oppressed worlds thanking humanity for their courage. The Guardians had been right. Sometimes, the mightiest weapon was the truth, delivered at exactly the right moment by people brave enough to sacrifice everything for justice. The emergency session of the Hegemony Council convened in chaos. Representatives from 12 species argued loudly across the Great Hall, while holographic displays showed the spreading disaster. Red warning lights indicated rebellion on 47 worlds, with more joining every hour. Councillor Vex High's insectoid features clicked rapidly with agitation. The message from Earth has reached every inhabited system in our territory. Our prison worlds are being exposed. The slave populations are revolting. How is this possible? Demanded Councillor Rexton, slamming his fist on the table. One primitive planet cannot threaten our entire empire. Admiral Zexthara stood before the council, his 4 arms spread in a gesture of helplessness. Honored councillors, I respectfully submit that we were wrong about Earth. They are not primitive. They have been preparing for this moment for decades under Guardian guidance. The Guardians are extinct, Rexton roared. They have been gone for 2,000 years. With respect, Councillor. The evidence suggests otherwise. Zexthara activated a holographic display, showing the analysis of Earth's defenses. Their planetary shield technology is beyond anything in our databases. Their quantum encryption uses algorithms that predate our civilization, and the authentication codes in their broadcast are genuine Guardian signatures that cannot be forged. Elder Councillor Thexara raised a tentacle for silence. Her ancient voice carried the weight of centuries. I have lived longer than anyone in this room. I was present at the last recorded Guardian sighting, over 1,800 years ago. What we saw from Earth today, it bears their mark. Even if the Guardians have returned, Vex High said desperately, we still have the largest fleet in the galaxy. We can suppress these rebellions. Can we? Thexara asked quietly. She manipulated the display to show incoming intelligence reports. Look at what's happening across our territory. The hologram shifted to show dozens of star systems in revolt. On Kepler 442, the enslaved Zephyrian population had overwhelmed their guards and seized the orbital shipyards. The Tau Ceti mining colonies had declared independence and were broadcasting Guardian protection codes. Even worse, neutral species who had previously ignored hegemony expansion were now openly condemning their actions. The Altarians have severed all diplomatic relations, Thexara continued. The Centauri Federation is demanding immediate release of all political prisoners. 3 minor species have requested Guardian protection for their homeworlds. In one day, Earth has undone 2,000 years of our work. Admiral Zexthara cleared his throat nervously. There's more, honored councillors. My fleet detected multiple Guardian vessels emerging from hyperspace near Earth. Not just one old ship, an entire flotilla. They were always there, watching and waiting. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The hegemony had built their empire on the belief that the Guardians were gone forever, that their moral authority had died with them. But if the Guardians had returned, "What are your orders regarding Earth?" Zexthara asked. Rexton stood up, his reptilian features twisted with rage. "We destroy them. We glass their planet and show the galaxy what happens to those who defy us." "With what fleet?" Thexara asked coldly. "Half our ships are dealing with rebellions on our own worlds. The other half would be destroyed trying to penetrate Guardian defenses." On Earth, Sarah Kim watched the galactic situation unfold from the Pentagon Command Center. Reports streamed in from radio telescopes around the world, intercepting communications as the hegemony empire began to collapse. "Dr. Kim, we're receiving a transmission from the Guardian ship," Director Walsh announced. "Captain Thelnara requests permission to brief you on the galactic response." "Put her through." The main screen flickered, and the image of an elegant alien appeared. Captain Thelnara resembled a humanoid dolphin, with smooth gray skin and large, intelligent eyes. When she spoke, her voice carried the wisdom of ages. "Dr. Kim, on behalf of all free species, I thank humanity for their courage. Your broadcast has accomplished in one day what we have been trying to achieve for centuries." "What's the situation out there?" Sarah asked. "The hegemony is fracturing. Rebellions have erupted on 63 worlds, and more are joining every hour. The evidence you broadcasted has given oppressed populations the proof they needed to act. But more importantly, it has given them hope." The display changed to show a galactic map with points of light indicating free worlds. For the first time in 2 millennia, the galaxy remembers that the hegemony can be defeated. Your species has reminded them that freedom is possible. "What happens now?" "Now comes the real test," Captain Thelnara said seriously. "The hegemony will not surrender easily. They will attempt to crush these rebellions with extreme violence. The galaxy will need protectors, peacekeepers who can stand against their remaining forces." Sarah understood immediately. "You want humanity to help." "We want humanity to lead," the Guardian captain corrected. "Your species has demonstrated something we thought was lost: the ability to fight for others without seeking to conquer them. The galaxy needs that kind of moral courage. But we're not ready for space warfare. We barely have a dozen ships capable of leaving our solar system." Captain Thelnara smiled, an expression that looked strange on her alien features. "Dr. Kim, humanity has been ready for 40 years. The technologies we shared were not just defensive. Every satellite around your planet can be converted into a weapon. Your space stations are actually shipyards in disguise. Your internet is a command and control network sophisticated enough to coordinate a galactic navy." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. "You've been preparing us to fight the hegemony all along." "We've been preparing you to choose?" Captain Thelnara replied. "Today, humanity chose to sacrifice their safety for galactic freedom. That choice proves you are ready for the responsibilities that await." Back in the Hegemony Council chamber, Admiral Zexthara delivered his final report. "Honored counselors, I recommend immediate negotiation with the Guardian Human Alliance. Our strategic position is untenable." "Never," Rexton snarled. "We are the hegemony. We do not negotiate with primitives and extinct peacekeepers." But Elder Thexara had lived long enough to recognize when an empire was ending. "Admiral Zexthara, what are humanity's terms?" "They haven't made any demands, Elder Counselor. They simply broadcast the truth and waited for the galaxy to decide its own fate. No ultimatums? No territorial claims? No demands for tribute?" "None. According to intercepted communications, they're offering humanitarian aid to refugee populations and requesting permission to help evacuate civilians from war zones." Thexara laughed bitterly. "Of course they are. They're not conquerors. They're healers. The Guardians chose well." As if summoned by her words, every communication system in the council chamber activated simultaneously. The Guardian authentication symbol appeared on every screen, followed by a new message from Earth. To the Hegemony Council and all remaining loyal forces came a voice speaking perfect hegemonic standard. Earth extends an offer of sanctuary to any being who renounces violence and seeks to build a better galaxy. We do not ask for surrender. We ask for cooperation in healing the wounds your empire has caused. The choice is yours. The message ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. In their entire history, no one had ever offered mercy to the hegemony. Elder Thexara stood slowly, her ancient frame trembling with emotion. Perhaps it is time to learn what the galaxy could be like without fear. 6 months after the broadcast that changed everything, Sarah Kim stood on the observation deck of the New Geneva space station, watching ships from 100 different worlds arrive for the first galactic assembly. The sight still amazed her, vessels of every imaginable design, carrying representatives from species she had never dreamed could exist. "It's quite a view, isn't it?" said a familiar voice behind her. Sarah turned to see Captain Thelnara approaching, her elegant form moving gracefully in the low gravity. The Guardian captain had become a close friend during the chaotic months of galactic reorganization. "I still can't believe how quickly everything changed," Sarah said. 6 months ago, we didn't even know aliens existed. Now Earth is hosting the first free galactic government in 2,000 years. Change was inevitable once the truth was revealed, Thelnara replied, joining Sarah at the viewing window. The hegemony's power was built on lies and fear. When those foundations cracked, the entire structure collapsed. Below them, in the massive assembly hall that had been constructed in record time, delegates from 300 species took their seats. The former hegemony worlds were there, represented by the resistance movements that had overthrown their oppressors. But so were many species that had never been conquered. Drawn by the promise of a galaxy governed by cooperation instead of force. "Status report on the transition zones?" Sarah asked. "Better than expected. The Zephyrian Republic has successfully integrated 7 former prison worlds into their territory. The Centauri Federation is providing humanitarian aid to refugee populations. Most importantly, we've had 0 reports of revenge killings against former hegemony administrators who surrendered peacefully." Sarah nodded with satisfaction. That had been humanity's greatest contribution to the post-hegemony galaxy. The principle of justice without vengeance. The Truth and Reconciliation Tribunals, modeled on Earth's own historical examples, had processed thousands of cases without a single execution. "What about the holdouts?" Thelnara's expression grew more serious. "Councillor Rexton has established a rump state in the Outer Rim, with about 30 worlds still loyal to the old ways. They call themselves the True Hegemony and refuse all attempts at dialogue. Are they a threat? Not militarily. They lack the resources for large-scale offensive operations. But they're still enslaving civilian populations and committing atrocities against any species that tries to leave their territory." Sarah sighed. Even in victory, perfect peace seemed impossible. The Assembly will need to vote on intervention. Several species are demanding immediate military action to liberate the remaining prisoner worlds. "And what does humanity recommend?" Captain Thelnara smiled. "That's what makes your species so remarkable, Dr. Kim. You always ask what's right, instead of what's convenient. The Guardian Council believes Earth should lead the intervention, but only with explicit Assembly approval and only to protect civilians." Before Sarah could respond, her communication device chimed with an urgent message. "Assembly delegation from the Altarian Collective requests immediate meeting. Priority Alpha." "The Altarians?" Sarah raised her eyebrows. "They've been neutral in everything so far. What could they want?" They made their way to the diplomatic quarters where Ambassador Veltran of the Altarians waited. The crystalline being shimmered with nervous energy as they entered. "Dr. Kim, Captain Thelnara, thank you for seeing me urgently. My government has intercepted communications from the True Hegemony that require immediate action." "What kind of communications?" Sarah asked. The Altarian activated a holographic display showing intercepted transmissions. Counselor Rexton is planning something called the final solution. If he cannot rule the galaxy, he intends to destroy it. The blood drained from Sarah's face as she read the intelligence reports. He's going to use stellar destabilization weapons on inhabited systems. Target civilian populations to force other species into submission. Correct, Ambassador Veltran confirmed. Our analysis suggests he has the capability to destroy approximately 50 star systems before the assembly could stop him. Captain Thelnara studied the data with growing alarm. This changes everything. We can't negotiate with someone willing to commit genocide on this scale. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Humanity had become the moral center of the new galactic order, but that meant making the hardest decisions. How long do we have? Brahm. Intelligence suggests the first attack will occur within 72 hours. The target appears to be the Kepler 442 system, where the former slaves declared independence. 2 billion Zephyrians live in that system, Sarah said quietly. We have to stop this. The assembly will support military intervention, Ambassador Veltran assured her. But the logistics. No one has ever attempted to coordinate naval forces from 300 different species. Actually, someone has, Captain Thelnara said with sudden realization. The Guardian archives contain tactical protocols for exactly this situation. We used them during the last galactic war, before we went into hiding. Well, Senshin, Sarah made her decision. Call an emergency session of the assembly. Full disclosure of the threat and request for unified response. And Captain, I need you to contact Earth Command. It's time to reveal the full extent of our military preparations. Are you certain, Dr. Kim? Once we show our capabilities, there's no going back to being seen as a primitive world. We stopped being primitive the moment we chose to help others instead of protecting only ourselves, Sarah replied. Humanity accepted the responsibility to defend freedom. Now, we have to prove we can handle it. 3 hours later, Sarah stood before the packed assembly hall as representatives from across the galaxy listened to her address. The translation systems hummed with activity as her words were converted into hundreds of languages and communication methods. Honored delegates, the threat we face requires us to choose what kind of galaxy we want to build. We can allow fear of a desperate tyrant to paralyze us, or we can stand together and prove that freedom is stronger than oppression. She gestured to the display showing the mobilizing fleet. Ships from dozens of worlds were already moving toward Kepler. 442. Their different designs creating a beautiful tapestry against the stars. Humanity offers to coordinate the defense, not because we seek to command you, but because we have learned that true strength comes from unity. The Guardian technologies we've integrated aren't weapons of conquest. They're tools of protection. The vote was unanimous. Operation Galactic Shield would launch within hours, commanded by a joint human Guardian fleet with support from every willing species. As Sarah watched the massive armada depart for what might be the final battle against the hegemony, Captain Thelnara joined her once again. Nervous? The Guardian asked. Terrified, Sarah admitted. But also hopeful. 6 months ago, these species were strangers to each other. Many of them, enemies. Now, they're willing to risk everything to protect people they've never met. That's the future the Guardians dreamed of when we first went into hiding, Thelnara said softly. A galaxy where moral courage matters more than military might. Your species didn't just expose the hegemony's crimes. You showed everyone what the alternative could look like. What happens after we stop Rexton? Then we build something new. A galactic civilization based on cooperation instead of domination. Protection instead of conquest. It won't be easy, and it won't be perfect, but for the first time in millennia, it will be free. As the